We're just on a quorum.
We're just short of a quorum, so we'll just wait till we get another person into the room. Right, team, we're going to kick off in about 30 seconds, so if you want to make your way to your seat. All right, team. I'll open the Budget and Performance Committee for the 17th of March 2026. My name's Councillor Greg Sayers. I'm chairing it, supported by my Deputy, Councillor Maurice Williamson. Thank you for the councillors who are here and arriving, and those online. Just a few housekeeping points, just a reminder that this is being live webcast. For those of you online with electronic attendance, just a few protocols to remember: being in a secure and safe place and having your camera on when you're speaking. For those of us in the room, could you just check if your phone's on silent or on vibrate or turned off? Now, we do have some people on electronic link that have been approved. That's Councillor Andy Baker, is that right? And Tori from Hokura. So welcome, and I see they're both dialed in. So we'll move on to the apologies. We do have a few people that have expressed that they will be late. One of them I can take off because she's just arrived. So Councillor Fletcher for lateness, Councillor Henderson for lateness, Councillor Filipina for lateness, Councillor Newman for lateness, and Councillor Hills for lateness. Is that the complete list? Okay, I just need to move that. So if I could move that, was somebody happy to second it? Thank you. Councillor Turner. Put those all in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carry. Moving on to the next item, which is just declarations of conflicts of interest. Excuse me, are there any? No. It's all a bit much, isn't it? So no, there's no conflicts of interest. Thank you. Yeah, okay, we'll do. Thank you, Deputy. Confirmation of the minutes. For those of you, has anyone read those minutes from the 18th of February and would like to move them? Thank you. Councillor Ferry, a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Put that to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, that's carried on the voices. Thank you for that. We do not have any extraordinary items. We don't have any petitions today, team. We don't have any public input, and we don't have any requests for local board input. Which brings us on to the first of the substantial items in the reports, which is item number 8.1 in your agenda, which is the Auckland Council Group Financial and Service Performance, and the officers are just coming forward at the moment. So just while they're doing that, just a reminder that the purpose is an update on the financial and service performance results for the 6 months to the 31st of December 2025, i.e. a quarterly report, and for the month of January 2026. So we have Michael Burns, General Manager of Financial Strategy and Reporting, will be presenting along with the Manager of Group Performance Reporting. Is that right, Michael? So will you lead in? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so I'll just speak briefly to the report, and then Karina's ready to answer all your questions.
And Michael, I understand we've got Justine online as well.
Yes, if that's helpful for our questions. So this report presents the quarterly performance report for the period to 31 December last year, and the monthly financial dashboard for January 2026. These reports follow the release of the group's interim report, which was released to the NZX on the 27th of February. Now, the release of that interim report and the requirements around that is why this the quarterly report didn't come to the last Budget and Performance Committee. So due to the timing of this meeting, however, we did distribute these reports earlier to you by email on the 6th of March. So the quarterly report shows capital investment of almost 1.8 billion in the first half of the year, in part funded by $553 million of additional direct borrowing. This, along with an increase in book valuation of our foreign currency debt, brought total group debt to at the half year to 15 billion. This equates to 18.2% of assets and a debt to revenue well under our targets of around 228%. In terms of operating performance, the council group showed strong positive position against budget, with direct revenue 50 million over budget and direct expenditure 87 million under budget. The monthly report for January continued these trends, with capital investment reaching 1.999 billion and still at 81% of budget, and net direct expenditure favourable at $130 million favourable. So over the two reports, in terms of direct revenue, we're seeing a really busy time in consenting, and particularly in requests for LIMS and property files. So that may be reflecting either a busy or maybe a particularly cautious property market and property buyers out there. This is offset by some lower public transport revenue, partially as the result of people taking up the use of the $50 caps, weekly caps, and some lower water revenue at Watercare due to the higher rainfall. Direct expenditure results are favourable. Largely that's due to timing differences with the budget, but that's partially offset by some additional maintenance spend as a result of bad weather rainfall events. In terms of service performance, we're seeing really good results in our libraries, with 4.3 million visits in the 6 months, which is the highest we've had for 5 years. Our animal management business our animal management response targets are still below budget, but are significantly improved on where they were this time last year, so we're seeing great improvement there. The one other kind of key performance measure to note is in the waste space, with our food scraps diversion not reaching target, notably below. That is driven largely by participation in the scheme, and the team are working hard to improve that. So with that, I'll just leave it there, and we're ready to take your questions. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for that, Michael. So are there any questions? Yep, there is. Thank you, Your Worship.
There should always be questions. This is quite a big report, and there's a lot of work in. Are you going to go through any of these slides in this bit here or not? No, it's really, but it's actually, there's a lot in it. It's well presented, and it's for a quarterly report. It's well, but it's kind of in a good news way, which is, you can't blame them. And there's quite a lot of good news in here, but there are some things that aren't, and I think we should be. It's good that you raised the thing like the green waste, and we have had a habit of over-promising the good sides of things and under-delivering on them, and I know that Councillor Williamson is alive to the number of cyclists that we've promised to have, and they just haven't arrived. And those sorts of things there need to be highlighted. So it needs, we should. I know that's nice that you're trying to make us all look bloody good all the time, but I think we need to be pretty brutally honest in these things. And for instance, I was looking at the waterfront development, Auckland urban development on page 27, I think. As a pointed stride, probably is preferred, but it sounds like amazingly good news for handing over a whole pile of land for 125 years for $17.5 million, which is kind of like a ludicrously bad decision. And so when we have these ones, we should perhaps present them in saying something not, I don't want to make it overly negative, but a bit more neutral about it, sort of saying, well, you know, this was this transaction will be checked or something like that. I don't want to put just on that, but you've got other ones where you've got bits of white and bits of red, and it's quite good that you're doing that sort of stuff because, you know, it isn't all perfect. It's pretty good overall. And then the other bit I wanted to ask, so is, can we have just somebody reread these ones and make sure it's not too glowing where it doesn't need to be. And then that we are spending a lot on capex, and the debt is rising pretty. $883 million is probably, it's, as you say, it's within our debt to revenue ratio.
18%.
But can we actually have something stating that we absolutely categorically that went on capex? None of that drifted into OPEX, because it shouldn't. And I want to have statements to that effect so that people understand that what we are borrowing for is future assets, and that we are actually expecting those future people to start paying some back. So we should at some stage in our things be pointing out that we are slowly paying back for things that were bought and borrowed for some time ago, because it is getting up. And so I want statements to say that these things are categorically not involved in OPEX, and we are, everything should basically have reds and greens. If it's all green, then no one will believe that. That'll be just as mad as the Greens' own financial policies. There's got to be a few reds in there. Otherwise, if there aren't some reds in there, you're not pushing yourself. So, you know, levels of service for the pump station, for one, you know, I can live with that. Those sorts of things, it shows us trying hard. So, my two questions are: can we make it a bit less unneutral, and can we have statements about the debt that's a bit more than just saying it remain below the long-term target plan? You know, I think we're going to have, we will want to have a big time going through debt and its growth over the next long-term plan. It'll be something that I'll be talking about, because we can't have a long-term plan that just goes up and up and up forever like America, because we don't have the capacity to bomb people into submission. Okay.
I think the answer to both of those is yes. We can look to add more reds and greens to be a bit more neutral, and have no problems confirming that all of our borrowing is within our policies.
There should be a standard statement that this is in no way are we borrowing to operate, you know, and it should repeat and repeat, rinse and repeat, so people get that. Otherwise, we'll be saying, yes, borrowing. Well, thank you very much for that.
Very good. Thank you for that. Councillor Turner.
Thank you. Just so the debt to asset ratio, that our debt ceiling, that's what it is, correct? The debt compared to asset ratio, is that the debt ceiling?
No, our debt ceiling's around our debt to revenue ratio.
But when I was looking at this stuff here, we do compare it. I hear you regularly compare our debt to the value of our asset and say that it's not. That what's that measure called?
So it's just another measure of our debt, but yeah, debt to assets, and they're the one that I mentioned earlier at 18.2%.
So water care assets are included in that, even though we've separated our balance sheets?
That includes both Watercare's debt and their assets.
Just sticking with the assets for now, from what I tried to work out, about 61% of that asset is underground. Is that correct?
I'm not across those figures.
Okay, well, I worked out at 61%. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. It'd be good for you to test those figures. But is it correct to say that calling that an asset is dangerous due to the fact that really it's a liability, a long-term liability at least? And if we took that out, it would change that figure significantly, wouldn't it? It would change that calculation.
I suppose in some ways, any asset needs to be maintained and looked after and renewed over time. There are assets in our books in that they continue to deliver service potential, and that they can drive service. It's important that we recognise them as assets. That way we can ensure we depreciate them, we look after them, and maintain and renew them.
Okay, our depreciation, 100% funding of depreciation is a bit of a different subject. All I'm trying to do is back up the mayor a bit about the fact of where we're going with these borrowings and compared to what and how we can justify it. But the last question, because you just raised it there, so Watercare has borrowed 13.5 billion, or will do over a period of time, and of that, 4.5 billion is going to come back to us, correct? And it makes no difference to the overall group balance sheet because one's offsetting the other, right?
Correct.
So, but it is real dollar transfers happening, isn't it? There's real money coming out of Watercare's accounts and being deposited into ours, correct?
Yes.
What's it being spent on?
It's being used to pay down the parent debt, so that it reduces the need for the council to borrow for its capital program, the capital programs of those we support with debt, such as Auckland Transport.
Yet our overall debt is still rising.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I guess just to clarify, not because of that debt transfer. So essentially there's 4 billion of debt that Watercare has raised through the council. They'll go and issue $4 billion of debt in their own name, and that transfers across and basically pays down council's debt. But at the same time, both Watercare and the council are investing in assets and increasing their overall debt levels.
What I'm struggling to understand is that I'm told those real dollars are being spent because our debt is going up, whether it be slowly, even if it's only by $1, it's going up. So that money coming across is being spent. And I'd like to know on what.
The money coming across is just a transfer of Watercare debt to council debt. It's refinancing debt that is separate to, as a group, we're borrowing, both parties are investing in more capex. So it's not, there is no increase in debt because of the transfer. There's an increase in the debt separately because of the capital investment.
Thank you. I've been doing the best I can to research and learn about this and not waste your time and the time here at this meeting, but the one message I am being told clearly by the people, the learned people I've engaged with is, it's real money, Ken, ask where it's going. So I'll keep coming back to you on that as I work out what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Yep. I'll go to Dave and then to you, Morris. So.
Thank you. Kia ora, Mr. Chairman. Just on the Māori outcomes underspend, is there anything you can put your finger on to say why that's occurring?
I'll need to follow that up and come back to you. We can, yeah.
Okay, because just to follow up that, I know that you're going to come back with a report in April, which talks about maybe redirecting to new projects, but it'd be good to know if the projects that aren't getting achieved or the spend isn't happening, it'd be good to know why that is as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Williamson.
Yeah, look, first of all, something you won't often hear from me. Well done. This is a really good report and lots of detail, and I loved reading it all last night. there's just a little bit to add to what the Mayor said. It says things like, you know, Reeves Road flyover, big capital expenditure, great. And then on page 20, I think, and then that's all it said. It actually should also say is a disaster at present, causing massive problems. AT are out there trying to find solutions. We're up to option 4A, and by July are looking to take away one of the big speed lump humps and try to get the traffic flowing through. So that councillors here know that it's not just a wonderful thing and we've opened it and then go out feeling happy and merry and gay. The last one I also wanted to point out too, that it's probably not the right forum to be asking details about this because this is a financial report. But on page 58, I have to say my ghast wasn't flabbered when I read about the food scraps. How down we are, dramatically down in terms of tonnage, and how fewer people are actually taking up this wonderful thing that previous council had decided was going to be great for us. It'd be really good if we could have a little bit more information on that food scrap stuff than just what's there. We're working harder to encourage greater households to use the thing. You know, I know it's not you, it's financial report, but if you're going to include stuff about how badly it's going, year-to-date actuals at 23,000 tonnes, way down on what we'd budgeted for. It would be good to have an idea of specifically what that's costing us. I understand the guy running the truck is in huge financial trouble because it's not even coming close to the tonnage he needs to make it a viable proposition. It's in close to being in really difficult financials. It could be a big bailout money sum for us if things turn to custard there. And just the way it's presented there is too shallow. It's just it's down a bit, move on, and it's just buried on page 58. But otherwise, you made an old man's heart very happy to see a good report.
Thank you. We do have Justine online if there's any specific questions on that, or would you just rather we came back to you with some more detail?
I mean, it's really, this is a finance report, and this just says, oh, the tonnage is down. But there have got to be real implications for that because it's been a long-term down compared to what the business case was. This is my post-implementation review argument over again. We decided all these wonderful things some time ago, and it's not happening. And we've got to work out what's the big reduction in revenue we're going to be getting out of that, what's the costs of the guy's contract that is contracted to have. He's leased a whole lot of trucks from truck rental and so on, still having to pay those. Truck rental is saying, you know, you still pay us. So I, as a councillor, I look at that, I have no idea what the financial implications for us being way off target. When do we expect to be back on target? What will be the cumulative amount of losses that we're going to have to take over that time? Just reading that, it doesn't really say anything.
Okay, thank you for that contribution. I have Councillor Watson, and followed by Councillor Patterson-Hamlin.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Michael. Just a couple more questions on debt, if you don't mind. So 15 billion at the end of last year, December. What are the finance costs, interest costs? Are they the same as in previous documentation? So the 15 billion, about 700 million a year, and then next year when we go up another 1.5 billion in debt, 809 million. Are they still tracking at for 809 million a year in interest costs next year?
I don't have next year's figures, but yes, the finance costs for the year to date for that first half were at 335 million against a budget of 334, so pretty much bang on budget. That total, the full year for this year, budget was at 673 million. We are seeing our forecast interest rates. At the half year, they were sitting below what the long-term plan had projected. So that's quite positive. But I'd have to come back to you on an update for the next year's forecast.
Yeah, so I guess the obvious question people will be asking out in the community is, given what's happening internationally, yeah, the attack on Iran and all the consequential, predictions for rise in inflation and business downturn, et cetera, is that going to materially impact then on our debt raising? I mean, I noticed for next year it was already going to be like 2.2 million a day, essentially, if it goes to that 809 million figure. So can we expect that cost of raising debt to increase if inflation increases, as many of the experts are saying?
I think it's probably still too early for us to make any clear statements in that space. Our team are starting to do some work on potential sensitivities to fuel price changes, and also to what any flow-ons in terms of inflation might be, and then this next degree beyond that would be interest rates. So our team are starting to pull that information together from across the group. As you can imagine, the key impacts, whilst the council itself doesn't have a high fuel cost, our contractors do. And so we're just starting to do some work on some scenario modelling there, but it's probably too early to make any categorical statements for next year.
Okay, just final question. In terms of, refinancing existing debt when that comes up, what's the situation there? Do we have any, big kind of borrowings that are coming up for renewal?
We have Auckland Council has a range of bonds that come up for renewal. We've just done some bond raising, and Watercare's just done some in the last few weeks at quite favourable rates with lots of interest in those bonds. So we're not exposed at the moment. We're looking pretty good in terms of any market disruption. It shouldn't impact us at the moment, given the bond raising we've just done. In terms of interest costs, yes, it's early days yet in terms of what oil prices might mean for inflation, growth outlooks, and then interest rate responses. But the other key element is we're well hedged in the short term, so we have lots of protection to moving interest rates in the short term, less so in the longer term.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Patterson-Hamlin.
Thank you. Just following on a little bit from Councillor Williamson's questions, and sorry, I don't know if this is in order, but Councillor Williams, was it page 45 you were referring to? I got it. Okay, we can deal with that later. I'm going to assume for now it was page 45. Anyway, the financial implications of being lower on the waste target, I'm going to use that food waste thing as an example, but I'm actually talking about the whole report, just because that's the one that Councillor Williamson used. So So the question was about how the cost implications of being behind target go. Is it feasible in a report like this to also feature the cost implications of the savings being made? I know you have that really good value for money section at the start, but I'm guessing 23 tonnes of stuff not going to landfill is probably representing a saving as well. So is that a feasible thing to represent so that we can look at both sides of that coin and assess where we're at in terms of the KPIs accordingly?
It's probably a challenge to model, to demonstrate the exact cost implications of all of these. For example, in that one, and I may ask Justine to back me up on this, but the lower diversion to landfill, diversion from landfill and food scraps collection probably doesn't result in a lower cost to council, given our standard, our contracts. And so in many cases, those don't result in a direct impact on our cost base. And so therefore, the projections and the impacts on operating expenditure, I think, are best shown through in that section. Yeah. Justine, are you able to confirm in that space? the cost implications of the food scraps result.
Yeah, Maudina Michael, and apologies, I seem to be having issues with my camera, but hopefully you can hear me okay. So yes, that's right. The collection contracts for food scraps provide for a household rate. So the reduced tonnage does not represent cost savings or additional cost to council, because we have provision for that service to be provided for all the households in the urban setting that receive that service, the same as recycling and rubbish. So essentially we have a standard provision for those bins to be put out on the curbside and for collection to occur every week.
Sorry, just to clarify on that, I don't want to get bogged down in that specific line item, because what I was actually trying to get at was the overall. So is what you're saying that overall we have to take each on a case by case basis, and that kind of modelling is just too unfeasible for a report like this? Is that the answer?
I think it's something we'll take away, because I can see the value in what you're asking there, and we'll have a look at what we can do going forward. I think, like you say, it follows from Councillor Williamson's request for more information there, and where we can show those projected cost impacts, we'll look to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. I have some additional speakers. We'll have Deputy Mayor, followed by Councillor Hills. So, Councillor Simpson.
Thanks, Chair. Look, I'm going to help you out here, Michael. Could you please confirm that both the direct revenue and the direct expenditure are both favourable to budget in this quarter?
Yes.
Can you confirm that the operating costs for the group are favourable to budget in this quarter?
Yes.
Halfway through the year, do you believe we will maintain our financial position to be on or under budget?
Looks very promising.
Thank you. I think that's really what I was going to say. I think that's the summary of your group report. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hills.
Thank you. I don't know, the Mayor mentioned cycleway numbers being down, but they're actually up and on target. I just wondered where that came from. But the question I have just on the debt, because it seems to come up every single meeting. So I know the answer, but can we just clarify again, because it was kind of left hanging in the air. Watercare's debt we're not getting as cash just to throw around. Watercare's debt moves from, our debt to their debt, but we count the debt as a whole. There's no magic money sitting there for us to choose to do something else with.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, it's effectively a transfer of debt.
Yeah, but we still count the overall debt, because that's the way the law was set up with the water services entity.
Yes, in the overall group accounts, council owns 100% of Watercare. We consolidate all the numbers into the overall group picture. Although certain metrics we do look at, excluding Watercare for things like our debt to revenue ratio, because that's how the rating agencies look at our credit.
Yeah, so there's no cash to be spent. It's just moving the debt from our books to their books, but we still acknowledge it's everyone's debt to own.
That's correct. Although at the same time, as a group, we're borrowing more debt overall to invest in more capex.
Yeah, I'm talking about two different things. I guess that's the one thing, that we're moving the debt to them, but then we're increasing our borrowing because we're increasing our capital. On that, the 880 something million for this 6 month period, increase in net debt, 330 of that is book value debt, so it doesn't have an OPEX component because of the foreign exchange kind of figure. Could you just explain that? Because our debt's going up 880, 500 of it's because we're borrowing, but 330 is due to the exchange rate, essentially.
That's correct. So we actually took out $500 million of new borrowings because most of our borrowings are denominated in foreign currencies. We need to adjust them back into New Zealand dollars for the sake of the books, and that adjusted it up 300 million. However, we do have those borrowings, those foreign currency borrowings, fully hedged. So that is not actually a cost to ratepayers. It's not money we will need to either repay or pay interest on.
But my understanding is we legally have to show that book value change, even though it's technically not real.
Yes, so that the debt that we're talking about is foreign currency debt. In New Zealand dollars terms, it is true that it is $300 million higher. That's more debt we have to repay, but we don't need to raise any more money because we have hedging contracts that will actually pay us $300 million to pay for that extra amount because we fully hedge the foreign exchange risk.
Thank you. So the 500 odd million, so that's for 6 months. So say if it continued equal for the next 6 months, that's $1 billion additional debt. But that's because that component of our borrowing for the capital, that component of the capital is from debt. There's a whole lot of other things, DCs, cash, depreciation, but that component, say it's $1 billion if it mirrors this last 6 months, that's because we're doing more capital, right?
Correct. Yep.
And my favourite question, if we were to do that $1 billion worth of capital through cash or rates instead of debt, is it accurate that would be a 40% increase to rates this year on top of our current rates, 40, if we were to fund that through cash instead of debt?
Yes, that's about right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ferry, thank you.
Kia ora, thank you. I've got a couple of questions. First, just reiterating, this is excellent and really well presented, easy to follow. Thank you. I guess I would disagree with the mayor that I think there are quite a lot of reds that I'd love to see turn green because we have achieved the targets. I've got 4 questions. The first is the stuff around customer satisfaction on page 28. Does that include reflecting recovery office stuff? I'm getting sort of a small number of people who are very, very unhappy about recovery office stuff, probably a medium number of people who are very happy, and then other people who are sort of, so are we counting that in those stats, or is this really more about those day-to-day business as usual queries?
Thank you for the question. That's right, it is more around the service performance.
Yeah.
What I will do, however, is check to see if we are measuring that as well separately. So I'll come back to you on that.
Great. I think it would be really useful to capture as we come to the end of that process for most people. Yeah, thanks. Page 36 refers to the Auckland Future Fund income being significantly lower. Now, obviously, we've had Auckland Future Fund in front of us on this, but is there, it mentions there about the delay in the, I can't remember the global something, from July to November, and that's the reason. Is there a plan to catch up on that?
So the key piece there is that because that hadn't been invested, what you'll see is lower return in terms of that revenue line, but some higher finance revenue, so offsetting that. Currently, we're still projecting. I mean, the key thing with the Future Fund was that it was a long-term targets and long-term averages, and we're still maintaining those long-term targets.
Great.
So,
I mean, obviously, we have this huge global uncertainty at the moment, so, acknowledging the long-term nature of it, I just wanted to understand that specifically. Thank you. Ports of Auckland on page 37, and this speaks to that international uncertainty at the moment. Are we expecting something from them at some point? Sorry, this isn't really a Q2 question. This is more of a Q2 is obviously potentially going to be, things will look quite different in Q3 probably. So are we working with them to better understand what the impacts of that might be? Their income is really important to us, obviously.
So the work that I referenced earlier about sort of scenarios and potential impacts will be across the group, and that will include Ports of Auckland, and we'll be discussing with their team what they're seeing in terms of their revenues and costs, and we'll be looking to build that up at a group basis, on a group basis.
Thank you. And finally, on the food scraps target, and this is probably a question for Justine, so I really appreciate her being available for this. So the target's on page 45. Sorry, I need to get new glasses. I keep having to squint at the numbers. They're not too small, I just can't see them. Yeah, I know, I can zoom, but I just resent it. I'm getting old. Are these targets that we're seeing on page 45, are they, and I notice they are LTP performance measures, are they based on us having shifted to fortnightly by now for the waste collection, or are they not taking that into account?
No, the target for the current year is not taking into account fortnightly, because if we had made that move, it would have happened in a subsequent year. That does mean we need to review the forward-year targets, though, to take account of that decision.
Okay, and obviously we have that coming to us, I think, in June or July, the implications of that change and approach to forthcoming
which
targets. Sorry.
Yeah, apologies.
Yep.
Yes, that's right. So that then enables us to make sure we're clear on the link between any decision made in June or July in relation to the forward targets for food scraps.
So is it fair to say there's a risk that we will get worse in this space?
No, as per the commentary, we are underway on a participation pilot to lift participation. So we certainly are not working towards reductions, but we did anticipate an increase in target as a result of a move to fortnightly. So that's what we need to reassess based on the decision later this year.
Yeah, sorry, I should have been clearer there. I didn't specifically mean the food scraps target. I meant both of them together. Obviously there is, as Councillor Patterson-Hamlin pointed to, a relationship here that the more that goes to food scraps, the less that's going to landfill. So, sorry, I didn't mean to imply that the food scraps would get worse. My concern is that the tonnes to landfill gets worse, partly because we haven't shifted to fortnightly, but also because of concerns around the food scrap service. So that's the risk I see coming, but obviously we have to have that discussion in July. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions in the room? Okay, there being none, thank you very much for the presentation. Look, team, I'm going to do something a little bit different right now, and that's before we go into any comments or debate, we do have, I think we should acknowledge the hard work, time and effort that our lead councillors put in on with the CCOs. So this is a Budget and Performance Committee meeting. Those lead councillors do report more formally through to Daniel's committee, the Appointments and Performance Review Committee. However, it might be helpful, and it's not compulsory for them, but hopefully you've all had a heads up as lead councillors, an opportunity from a finance and performance point of view, just to highlight anything that you'd like to from the report, or add any other observations that you might have made as representatives on those CCOs. So hopefully that might be helpful, and we'll just see if that adds any value to everybody. If it doesn't, we won't do it going forward, but if it does, we'll continue the practice. So let's see how we go. And just for the benefit of the public, the lead councillors we have on Auckland Transport, we have actually two directors, Councillor Williamson and Councillor Henderson. Tamaki Regeneration Company, we have Councillor Bartley as the lead councillor. We have on the Auckland Future Fund, Councillor Fletcher. Ports of Auckland Limited, we have Councillor Filipina. On Watercare, we have Councillor Turner. And on Tātaki Auckland Limited, we have the Deputy Mayor, Leslie Simpson. So I might just open up with between Councillor Williamson and Councillor Henderson if there's any, just highlight reports. It's not a written report, just a verbal update. Anything helpful to the committee?
Yeah, Chair, look, there's not really a lot to say on the financial side. There's a huge amount on organisational side and transition stuff and so on, which other committees will be getting reports on. But right now, I don't have any numbers other than what you've already got in there about Auckland Transport's capital expenditure and so on. It'd be wasting the committee's time to, I think. Yeah. Councillor Henderson agrees on it.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay. That's fine, thank you. I might next go to Tamaki Regeneration Company to Councillor Bartley, if there's any points.
Oh, thank you,
Councillor.
Chair.
Thank you.
I suppose financially, I don't have any information to share, but the crux of the speed at which housing is being built in Tamaki really relies now on the direct relationship between Tamaki Regeneration and Auckland Council, because Kāinga Ora is now out of the picture. So, yeah, I suppose the reporting back is that building is happening really fast in the area, and it's good to see both Council and TRC working closely together to make that happen and to take care of what happens underground in terms of infrastructure. So, yeah, that's what I have to report. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Councillor. Auckland Future Fund, Councillor Fletcher.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I don't think there's anything I need to draw to your attention. We are all well aware of the volatility of international markets, and therefore it is very rewarding for us to know that our directors are acting in a very considered and careful approach. In terms of the distribution for the Auckland Council, that is separate in terms of the initial capitalisation, so there should be no impact whatsoever on the expectations for our finances going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Ports of Auckland Limited, Councillor Filipina.
Ata Māori he mana. Good morning, Chair. Ata Māori e koutou katoa to us all. In regards to the Ports of Auckland, I think what I need to firstly cover off for those that may not know is that the Ports of Auckland is 100% owned by us as an Auckland Council Board operator as a commercial company under the Port Companies Act 1988 as a council and not as a council-controlled organisation. Need to put that there clearly because I've met with the board, I've met with the CEO, and the board have decided that from my perspective as liaison, I will not be invited into their meetings, which is fine with me. And so I have now going to organise regular meetings with Roger, the CEO. I've already had discussions with him from January in regards to where we go with this. I've been there twice already, visited the board with their meeting, firstly on the 24th of February. There was a burgers with the board that I got invited to, and then met with the board and the CEO. And from a financial perspective, it didn't cost me anything for the burgers. And then on the 11th of March, myself along with Councillor Short attended the Pacifica Day at the ports, and it was the Kiribati community acknowledged. So I then had the opportunity to also meet again with the CEO and the board. So, Chair, my last comment, because I'm not going to mention anything that's been put in under 8.1 around the ports. I will, however, just say one thing, and that is from a financial perspective in regards to the Ports of Auckland, is that it's on track to meet its full year targets, including $95 million profit and a $52 million dividend to council. So look, from a financial perspective, that's it, but you'll be getting a fuller report to Councillor Newman's committee. So that's where we are, and just want to acknowledge Chris Levitt from the CCO team, and we are working closely. And the last part is that there's no surprise policy, so the Mayor is definitely kept in contact around no surprises and the reports that come out of the port. So there you go, kia ora.
Thank you very much, Councillor. That was very interesting. Okay, water care, Councillor Tuna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think my observations are a lot of financial implication. Watercare as a board has got to grapple with several bosses. That's one of the things that is quite obvious when they've got the water regulator and they've got the Commerce Commission, all with input into the board structure or into the board operations, and then they've got several political suitors, including the government, who's, because they see them as shovel-ready with a bunch of money, putting pressure on them to help activate the economy by getting work done. And I think that's a problem, you know, that no good deed goes unpunished. They're there to deliver for the city, not for a wider objective. They are struggling to fit their CapEx requirements within their new borrowing limits, is my observation. And a big reason for that is that they're such a an operational, physical CapEx provider that the limit, the amount of the dollars that we invest in that are eroded away to non-productivity is starting to be recognised by that board as a problem. So by that I mean those very real other considerations, but are turning into parasitic industries of their own, which means that of every $10 we put up for CapEx, we only get, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't know the calculations, but we certainly lose a lot to abstract considerations and not to the investment we keep telling all Aucklanders they need to make. So I am quite open and concerned about our ability to live going forward as a family. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And finally, Tataki Auckland Limited, Deputy Mayor Simpson.
Thanks, Chair. From Tautaki's perspective, I just back Councillor Filipaine. Councillor Newman gets the more detailed report as part of that. But from a financial perspective, noting that this is a Q2 report, in December 2025, Auckland Film Studios was sold to part of Zytec, and that settlement happened in February this year. The sale protects $30 million of government funding for reinvestment in the new screen infrastructure, and that will support future growth in the screen industry, so that's positive there. Tautaki also confirmed a $5 million capital grant towards Auckland's Tennis Auckland's roof project, which was in consultation with the government and tennis themselves, and now that's going to be, that's in place at the moment. That big upgrade, $50 million upgrade is happening. The council has provided Tautaki with a $30 million events underwrite facility, as you know, which alongside central government announcements of short-term funding will enable Tautaki to drive the major event activity in the short term. However, another plug here, Your Worship, the long-term sustainable funding for major events still needs to be resolved, and Tautaki continues to push along with ourselves for a national bed levy to enable this. From their revenue perspective, slightly behind budget on Q2. We had very strong results from the performing arts, but that was offset by a slightly weaker performance at the art gallery and the zoo, but that goes up and down. The zoo, of course, has had car park groundworks and had some bad weather there in December. On the expenditure, that's favourable by 1.1 million. That's really just around costs, timing of costs. But they're in a good position, doing very well, and I enjoy being their representative.
Thank you very much, Councillor. So look, what I'll do is email each councillor and lead councillor personally and just find out if you thought that was a worthwhile exercise we just ran through with those presentations, and I'll welcome your feedback. All right, we have a resolution up on the screen there to receive the council report. Would somebody like to move that? I will. Okay, Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Williamson. I'll put that to the vote on voice. Oh, sorry. Thank you very much. Yeah, bit keen off the mark there, wasn't I? Yeah, any comments? Okay, all right, okay. Well, there being none, I will put it to the vote on voices. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Any abstentions? Declare that carried. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next item, which is the presentation from the Eden Park Trust Board. You can come forward if you like, Nick. While you're doing that, I'll run over the purpose. The purpose is to receive the regular 6-monthly presentation from Eden Park Trust Board on its performance and its financial projections in accordance with the Finance and Performance Committee 2009 resolution relating to funding and loan arrangements. So welcome to the table, Nick. Great to see you and the team. Very warm welcome to you. So maybe, Nick, if you just want to perhaps start off by, because we do have the public online, just reintroducing yourself and the team. Yeah, thank you.
Kia ora koutou everyone. I'll just do a brief introduction to the report and then hand to Nick and the team. So I'll give you a brief summary of the agenda report. The Trust last presented to you in November 2025. They were scheduled to appear in September, but that was deferred due to the local body elections. So by way of key updates, the Trust has released its annual report, which is appended to your paper, with the Trust reporting a net profit before depreciation of 3.891 million, which is up from 3.023 million in the previous financial year, and a net deficit after depreciation of 4.4 million. Major event attendance was up by 28,000 from the 2024 figures, with concerts generating the highest attendance. As highlighted in the Trust presentation, in our forecast making a net profit before depreciation of 950,000 in FY26, which is up from the 145,000 previously budgeted. Other key points you'll see in the report are confirmation of Auckland securing the State of Origin event to be hosted at Eden Park. So that's been co-funded in partnership by Auckland Council Events and the New Zealand Major Events Fund. The Trust loan facility balance remains steady with Council at 48.75 million, maturing in September 2029. The Government's announced that it will accept in full the recommendations of the investigative report on the planning provisions for the operation of the Eden Park Precinct, and the Trust presentation will talk a bit more to that. And finally, there's been event funding announcements from the Government's $40 million Events Attraction Funding Package and the Events Boost Fund, and to date support's been received for the FIFA World Series at Eden Park later this month, and there's more announcements expected in the coming weeks and months. So I'm happy to take questions, but otherwise proposing to hand to Nick and his CFO, Brett. Thanks.
Are there any initial questions? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Morena, and thank you very much for the opportunity this morning. My name is Nick Sortner. I'm Chief Executive of Eden Park, New Zealand's National Stadium. I'm accompanied by Brett Winstanley, our CFO. I'll talk through a number of the slides today. Please feel free at any time if you've got any questions, and then Brett will just overview on our financial performance to date this year. Just in line with our game plan, the first slide you'll see is the Edinburgh military tattoo, celebrating the achievements for Auckland. First time the event had been in Auckland, and an event that was a huge success for both Eden Park but also for the city. That event had over 54% visitation from outside of Auckland and over 5,000 ticket holders from outside New Zealand. So I wanted to just touch on our new vision, and our new vision has been developed by our team around being the world's most innovative destination. The rationale behind the new vision relates to the fact that we know that there is discussion around the CRL opening and also the upzoning around Eden Park. Eden Park is more than a cricket and rugby venue. It is a destination, and we are very confident as the city grows to the stadium, we'll see greater visitation on non-event days as well as event days. We have developed a culture of innovation, and that culture of innovation has seen the growth of our activities, where 70% of today's activity wasn't part of our business model 5 years ago. The team is relentless in seeing greater utilisation of this strategic asset for New Zealand, but also a community asset for Auckland. This has been, at some time, going against the grain of what a stadium would historically been seen and been utilised for. And just to give some context, on the 27th of this month, we'll see the All Blacks playing Finland. on the Friday night. We'll have 4 days of cricket on the Outer Oval with the Aces playing Canterbury. On the 28th, we'll have the Blues playing Fiji and Drua. On the 29th, we'll have Picnic in the Park, where 1,000 families will have the opportunity to see Emma perform in an intimate concert. And then on the 30th, we'll have the All Whites versus Chile in a doubleheader. So 5 events in 4 days, highlighting that increase in utilisation. For us, it's around an investment in both the park, the city, and our country. And as we all agree, we live in a fantastic city and country. As far as our mission's taken out of the trust deed. We are focused on being a multi-purpose asset for Auckland and New Zealand, and that will then come into discussion when we talk about the changes to the local planning rules through central government. Another initiative that we're working on is to provide CEO briefing papers to councillors, just to give you some context around some of those changes that will influence both the venue but also the community and our city. So that's an initiative that the team has talked about in this relentless pursuit of innovation, and the first papers will come out next week, and I'll talk to that in the next slide. As far as our game plan values 7 values and behaviours. We want to be the benchmark on and off the field, and a number of the innovations that you'll see in today's presentation demonstrate that. But our first value is customer service, and we have up to 3,000 staff on an event day across the various work streams. From our perspective, those 7 values and behaviours are the values that we instill in our casual workforce, but also in our full-time staff. Attention to detail, as everyone can be aware, we have up to 65,000 for a concert at Eden Park, 50,000 for a sporting event. We want people to come and feel safe and have a memorable experience. We also want to celebrate the achievements, and I think it's something that we talk about being a proud city. When you look at what we've delivered in this first quarter, with the Jehovah's Witness event delivering over 20 million of economic benefit for the city, followed by the Edinburgh military tattoo, the Premier of Queensland talked to over $40 million of economic benefit derived from the Edinburgh military tattoo in Brisbane. So these are events that we should be celebrating the achievements, but also acknowledging the workforce and our lean team that is responsible for delivering these events. Commercialisation through innovation. We do need to acknowledge our icon partners, our corporate suite holders, our members and the general public that all invest in our venue, but also our casual workforce. Up to 70% of our casual workforce is a second job, and it's something that we're very proud of, that those staff really do value their involvement with the park. We have also 300 volunteers that work on event days, and just in relation to the Edinburgh military tattoo, we had 22 golf buggies driven by some of our full-time and casual staff to assist with mobility. But then we also had 100 cadets that volunteered at that event to give an experience that was memorable to all those in attendance. Exceeding expectations. When we look at the venue and what has been delivered, we've invested over 45 million in the asset over the last 5 years. Now we need to reinvest in our people. Our people are actually the ones that deliver these memorable moments for our city, and our focus now is on our structure to ensure we can continue to grow. Building a level of comfort, we need to ensure that promoters look to Eden Park as the venue of choice, not necessarily in New Zealand, but actually in Australasia. And the experiences we provide to artists on both the event day, but also creating, whether it be murals, so we're the first venue in the world to create the murals that then raise funds for local charities, but also celebrate the fact that we have such a rich art culture here, and Eden Park is a blank canvas for creativity. Strong governance and accountability. I attended a round the table workshop this morning with NZME, talked about governance, but also risk appetite. That the reality is, if we continue to do what we've always done, we will fail as a business. We need to continually strive to see greater utilisation and greater diversification of our event calendar. So I'll hand over to Brett to just cover off on our finances.
Kia ora, good morning everybody. When we presented in November, we provided you with an unaudited view of what the 2025 financial performance would look like. I'm pleased to advise that we had no major adjustments through the audit process, so the numbers that were presented up there in the two left-hand columns are very similar to those that you would have seen in November. We managed to achieve a very creditable operating profit of $4.9 million. In the second to left column, that has been adjusted to $5 million, give or take, on the basis that we included in the statutory accounts the revaluation of residential properties, that being an abnormal item that's been adjusted for to give councillors a better idea of what the underlying performance is. Some years we have significant grant funding from central government and so forth that can distort the revenue view or the operating profit view. So just being consistent with prior years, I've made a similar adjustment, but it only relates in this instance to residential property valuations. That flows through to a profit before depreciation of 3.9 in the statutory accounts, and after our depreciation charge of over $8 million, we've reported a net loss overall of $4.4 million. That was around about $4 million better than the budget for the year, so we were very pleased with that performance. Moving to the two right-hand columns, I've just provided a forecast comparison to budget for the current financial year. This includes the impact of the first 3 months of results, so that's the months of November, December and January rather. It included the major events in November of the Metallica concert. We had two T20 internationals, very early date for those in early November for cricket, and a very successful rugby league international. And then in January we had the two Oceania Football Confederation professional league matches, which hadn't been in our budget, and of course, as Nick mentioned, the very successful Jehovah's Witness conference. So I'm pleased to advise that we're sitting ahead of budget for the year to date. The Metallica concert particularly, results can vary based on some uncontrollable elements such as the weather. So fortunately we had a lovely fine night for that event and a good crowd in attendance. So we're currently projecting a profit before depreciation of $950,000 compared to our budget, which was a leaner $145K. And after depreciation, it'll be a book loss of $7.7 million in the forecast versus the budget of a loss of 8.5. Nick, I'll hand back to you.
Thanks, Brett. I just wanted to touch on the economic benefit derived from a public asset being Eden Park. I touched on this comment earlier, community asset for Auckland, a strategic asset for New Zealand. We do have a partnership with the University of Auckland, and last year they conducted some independent research in relation to the economic benefit of Eden Park for the city, for the country, but also projections over a 10-year period. Approximately $40 million annually of GDP benefit derived from events at Eden Park, and since the Rugby World Cup, the $190 million from central government, $1 billion of economic benefit has been derived from the redevelopment, and that continues. It's a long tail. Today we've got 6 functions at the venue, and we're continuing to see increases in our non-event day activity. So that investment, there's no question, the ROI has been material. I will touch on my comments earlier around CEO briefing papers, and I have got a draft in front of me relating to the community views from the local planning changes. We were delighted with the outcomes of the investigation for the venue, for the city and for the country. With the community engagement over the last 9 years, we have over 97% support from the community, but also from the businesses, schools, and I just wanted to touch on 2 pieces of feedback following the local businesses and the impact the changes will have. The Dominion Road Business Association, the first area in New Zealand to get Purple Flag accreditation for a safe operation in the evening. While sport are your heritage, major concerts and diverse events are truly driving the local economy. We support these planning changes to allow Eden Park to maximise its potential year-round, ensuring that local businesses can thrive and survive thanks to the stadium. So that was from Gary Holmes from the Dominion Road Business Association. Claire Baxter-Carty from the Fringe District. The Fringe District is supportive of innovations that enable Eden Park to continue to evolve as a vibrant world-class venue. Increasing events and activity at the stadium brings significant benefits to our neighbourhood, including greater visitation numbers, increased local spending, and opportunities for our hospitality, retail, and service businesses to thrive. Major events also provide a platform to showcase Kingsland, Morningside, and the surrounding areas to international acts, visitors, tourists, strengthening Auckland's reputation as a dynamic destination. With thoughtful planning and collaboration, we see Eden Park's growth as a positive opportunity to support local economic vibrancy and highlight the unique character to our community. So, without question, the feedback has been extremely positive. We know that the area continues to evolve, and I mentioned earlier the CRL, once it opens, we'll see greater utilisation, but with that becomes challenges around parking, challenges around traffic management, and we are very supportive on initiatives in that space, both on an event and non-event day, to assist with flows into the area. In relation to the changes to the local government rules, I won't go through the briefing paper, but I will share it. We cover off on a number of points. The update to the precinct description, expanded activities, concerts, sports games, noise, lighting, consenting, and then the government put out, that I'm sure you all saw, a document that compared the previous state versus future state. For me, as someone who's now been in New Zealand and very proud to call New Zealand home, to think that for 125 years musicians weren't afforded the same rights as sports people was something that we had to change. And to see now the involvement of the arts community, again, first venue in the country to be doing art tours of the venue, a number of initiatives in that cultural space that is groundbreaking in terms of stadium utilisation. So I just do want to acknowledge the strategic priorities implemented by the Eden Park Trust Board, starting under Doug Mackay, that is really coming to fruition. This is probably an overnight success after 9 years of implementation. So thank you. As far as the major event calendar, we have touched on this under Brett's report, but we are a market of 5 million people in comparison to Melbourne, where the population is 7 million. So Marvel Stadium has 46 AFL games a year and up to 40 other events, 96 events a year. Our city of 1.83 million people, we are never going to be at that level of engagement. What I would like to see is 24 premium events a year and 24 community events utilising the number one. If we got to that stage, 2 events on average per weekend, per week, combined with the other community utilisations would be the ideal utilisation of our asset. But if you look at the slides on the screen and you look at where we've got to in terms of utilisation, this year we'll have more football played at Eden Park than we've had rugby. So it definitely is seeing a change in our utilisation. Not saying that those traditional codes aren't important to us, and obviously having the 2 All Blacks tests are pillars in our annual event calendar. As far as State of Origin, it has been mentioned earlier, this is an enormous achievement for the city. We can't see this as a one-day. It must be a 10-day festival and celebration where people come as a ticket holder and leave as a tourist. So what we can do ahead of the event and what we can do post the event to utilise the outer oval, but also ensure that those travelling from across the ditch make sure that they spend their money here and also across the country. So my focus, now that that event has been secured, and we must acknowledge both central government and council for their support, as Deputy Mayor Simpson has mentioned, the focus now is to ensure that we maximise the experience, and we have up to, I'd like to see 30,000 visiting from across the ditch as advocates for our great city and great country. Indian tour program will be seen later on this year. We also, on the horizon, have the T20 World Cup in 2028, and we are working with central government on upgrades to ensure that the only venue in this country to be able to host quarterfinals, semi-finals and finals of World Cup events is Eden Park. And that's something that shouldn't be overlooked. our capacity and our resources make us the venue of choice for both sport and entertainment. And then 2029, I do get frustrated that a women's Lion series, this is a paradigm shift for women's sport. For that game not to be played at Eden Park is a disgrace, and I've made that very clear publicly. We want the Black Ferns to be playing at the National Stadium. They're not, and it's disappointing, but I can assure you we need to work tirelessly with government and council to ensure the men's Lion series in 2029 is played at Eden Park, where the greatest benefit for our up-and-coming players, for the economy and for our city is achieved. As far as community engagement, again, it's something that we're very proud of, and a number of our partners play a critical role in ensuring that these programs get implemented. Party at the Park was an event that we did with Will and Able. That charity aligned with AA Insurance as an example through our Icon partnership to deliver a Party at the Park event at one of our rugby games. And it was probably, in terms of our staff, but also AA Insurance staff, one of the most memorable events for them to be involved in. We have from now swimming pools at the park through to rooftop tours and glamping, that diversification, but also provides opportunities to shine a light on a number of these charities that we work with, and then also ensuring that we can assist with fundraising, although being a charitable trust. Some of you may be aware that I've spoken previously that 30% of our revenue will come from outside the four walls of Eden Park within 3 years if we look to innovate further with our advisory service. We're doing some work currently in Oman in that advisory space in Saudi Arabia, but we also do it locally. So many of you would not be aware that Eden Park has a turf farm at Karaka, and after the Ed Sheeran concert at Mount Smart, Eden Park's turf was by your contractor was purchased and then supplied to Auckland Unlimited, so that 1,500 square metres of turf was replaced at Mount Smart using Eden Park's turf, but also down in Wellington as well. So the key takeaway with this is we have expertise within our organisation, and we would like to see that Venues Auckland model whereby you're seeing greater synergies and greater utilisation of existing resources rather than spreading the requirement to have turf replacement farms by multiple providers when Eden Park has that resource available. So we're very keen to see that progress. No different to we're very keen to progress the conversation around Colin Maiden Park and what role we can play in implementing that change. The hybrid multi-purpose surface that Eden Park has developed with HG turf is now available globally. And if you have a chance, please log on to the HG Turf Cam to watch grass grow at Eden Park. So that's available now. Brett touched on the need for asset management, and I think it's the number one challenge for any major piece of infrastructure. Eden Park arguably is $1 billion asset. We have $8 million a year of depreciation. And the need to continually upgrade our facilities to be able to accommodate events like the State of Origin is critical. We put together just some critical asset management requirements, $4 million worth of work required from chiller replacements through to fire control panels. As with any major piece of infrastructure, if you neglect these proactive works, you'll be compromised in our event delivery or indeed our ability to safely deliver major events. As far as ongoing work streams with Auckland Council, we're currently working on a project around Colin Maiden Park for Auckland Cricket to relocate, and working through that has been a collaboration across many parties, and we're looking to hopefully see a resolution in the near future. That will enable the Outer Oval to see better outcomes and better utilisation for major events, including from Blues activations on match day through to, as I mentioned, for the State of Origin or indeed New Zealand rugby fixtures. As far as the deboring project, I'm not sure if Council is aware, there were 3 bores installed for the Rugby World Cup that lowers the aquifer and eliminates the risk or mitigates the risk of flooding. We're working through with Council to get consenting implemented for those bores. So in the event of the 2023 flooding, if those bores were turned on, we would have additional capacity underneath in the aquifer that would mitigate some of the flooding that occurred in the area and saw 1,000 houses affected. So we're excited to get that project, hopefully, consented in the not too distant future and implemented by Healthy Waters and the council. Attracting major events, content is king, and getting the right content is critical for us. And so the event fund has certainly assisted us. And tonight at 9:30, look out for a concert announcement at Eden Park for later this year as we continue to roll out event announcements for the benefit of the city. Asset management and infrastructure planning, it is on top on the agenda for us to work through, along with transport and precinct operations. By way of an example, with the Melbourne Grand Prix, they have temporary footbridges across key arterials in Melbourne that eliminates or mitigates the need for traffic management. So if anyone knows anyone that's got a temporary scaffold bridge that could put it into Kingsland, that would save us between 10 and 50,000 on an event day with traffic management costs. So these are, I say that tongue in cheek, is because there was a plan to have a footbridge into Kingsland for the Rugby World Cup. It never happened. We're 15 years on and paying as a result of that. So as part of that precinct redevelopment, a footbridge into Kingsland is a must. Is that it? That's it. Any questions, please?
Great. Thank you both. All right, I open up for questions. We do have a few hands up. So I'll just start with resolve. So I'll start with Councillor Newman, followed by Councillor Fletcher.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Brett. I've got a couple of questions. Appreciate the program for the Indian Cricket Tour isn't yet available. I'm just curious to know what, in relation to the requirements of the broadcasters in Central Asia and India, what would be the likely start time for the T20s and if they're played at Eden Park?
So some years back we applied for a consent to enable the games to go to a scheduled finish time at 11 o'clock. That is the minimum to ensure that Auckland is able to secure those matches.
And in relation to, do you have any idea what the kick-off time will be for the State of Origin for the broadcasters in Aussie?
We're working through that now, also around ensuring that there's a curtain raiser or a double header to get people early into the venue and utilising that outer oval for an activation zone.
Okay, that's really good. My other questions were, so the local Member of Parliament, Helen White, seems really enthusiastic to have you there. That's great. And that her surveys, I mean, we had some feedback from her previously. Obviously, the traffic management is an issue for which the neighbours are concerned about. In relation to those spaces just on the outside of the traffic management area, those streets just outside of that zone, is there much work, much relationship going on there in terms of those streets that are affected but not quite in the controlled zone?
It's a very valid point, Councillor Newman, and to give some context, if we went to Cromwell Street today, the street would be completely parked out and you wouldn't be able to get into your driveway without a challenge. On event days, that's a permit zone, and so there are no cars in that street. So the feedback we received, and I've provided this to the local board, is that we would like to see a permanent resident-only parking and restrictions, perhaps an hour and a half on all days, to enable this whole area, as the CRL gets implemented, to be a resident-only parking with restrictions. Now, there are some challenges with that because people want to have visitors coming to their house, but that can be overcome with a permit zone or parking zone. But outside the perimeter of the venue is definitely a pain point. What I would say is that once the CRL opens, we'll be 7 minutes to the CBD, so there's no reason why people won't be using that CRL to commute to Eden Park.
Thank you. And the one final question, so the result looks pretty good overall. I'm assuming that there are conversations that we're not quite privy to, but I'm assuming there are conversations taking place around costs pertaining to those critical renewals. Are we going to get some further advice on that, are we?
It is an ongoing conversation, and it's critical that these vital pieces of infrastructure are either maintained or replaced to ensure we can deliver the calendar of content that we've spoken about today.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Just the speaking order is councillor Fletcher, councillor Berry, followed by deputy mayor, followed by councillor Watson, followed by councillor Lee. So,
Thank you, Chair. I have a couple of questions, and they're not necessarily financially related. Is that okay with you? Firstly, though, may I say, Nick, you are a strategic asset for Auckland and New Zealand, and when I consider how far we have jointly come since your arrival as CEO, it's just absolutely amazing. So congratulations to you and your team, because you can't do it alone, and I know what a great team you've got there, and the relentless pursuit for opportunities for us. So my first question relates to my role as the disability panel. There were a few complaints that were posed to me after the military tattoo, the Edinburgh tattoo, with the electric golf carts that went from Kowhai Intermediate. That was highly successful with the volunteers, but on the return, because the golf carts needed recharging, there were complications in getting people back to their vehicles. Is that something that you have investigated and are working on?
So thanks for your comments and the question. I've worked in the industry for 25 years. It's the first time we've ever implemented 22 golf carts at any event. And we'd had Andre Rieu in Melbourne with a similar demographic attending. We knew it was going to be challenging in terms of mobility and accessibility. By way of example, the team implemented an open day on the Sunday prior to get over 2,500 attendees to come and see where their seat was and understand the accessibility. There was over 1,600 requests for mobility parking for that event, in the vicinity of 250 for most events. So the team did an outstanding job. The demand was even greater than we'd hoped. And I had 2 general managers driving golf buggies on that night, and also utilising our turf management infrastructure to try and move some of the people around. What I would say is that the venue is focused on mobility and accessibility over the last 5 years. We've implemented comfort zones whereby mobility patrons can have a comparable experience in any seat category. That includes having a screen and a heater and a barrier to eliminate that interference from able-bodied patrons. That's all being funded by grant funding and initiatives driven by 2 staff members who have mobility issues themselves, including a tetraplegic. So the team did an amazing job, but like anything, when you've got 28,000 people attending, it was always going to be challenging. So we've learnt from the event, and it's very rare that you get an event with an average age of what we did have. What I would say is there were some areas for improvement that could have occurred at Kingston Railway Station with double stacking of trains, etc. That probably was a greater issue for us than indeed the mobility one that you've talked about.
Thank you. Good that we're continuing to evaluate that. The second thing, and I took myself off to Brisbane for the weekend to have a look at what the future is with events there, because it's certainly contributing to the prosperity of Brisbane at the moment, and also the trackless trams. I wanted to see how they were in operation. But what do you pick as those trends that you're looking at, looking ahead, that could be applicable to Eden Park? Do you want to talk about looking forward?
I think our greatest threat or challenge that we face is residencies in stadia. So if you look last year, we had Oasis, Lady Gaga playing limited cities, multiple shows. We've seen it previously with Taylor Swift. So this is why, whether it be a bed levy or an event fund, is so critical. And also having the enablement of our consenting. So as everyone knows, we had originally a restriction on no concerts. We moved to 6, then it was 6 artists up to 12 shows, etc. I'm sure if Adele was looking to do 10 days of residency at Eden Park, I think everyone would be very excited by that. I'm not suggesting she is, but they're the types of opportunities that we'll be seeing in future, where artists will come to a venue and expect people to come to that venue. So to give an example, in Melbourne again, Taylor Swift played the MCG in a population of 7 million with 4 major stadiums. She didn't play 4 venues. So the conversation around even tonight's artist being announced, the critical element is having Eden Park as a pillar that could deliver 100,000 tickets, and then an artist may play a second city like Christchurch, unlikely to play Auckland, Dunedin, Wellington and Christchurch. So that is the trend. That is something that we need to focus on. If you want to go to Milford Sound or Hobbiton, you get in your car or your plane and you visit. When you want to go to a major event moving forward, people will come to our national stadium, Eden Park.
It's going to be very good for Auckland. Finally, you've touched on the traffic management issues, and obviously there's a lot of work yet to be done. Do you want to speak further, though, to the footbridge? Because that is something that is that something we can work with together on rather better than the expectations we've had in the past?
Definitely. I think as we look at the growth corridor from linking the stadium to the city and vice versa, that footbridge would enable Sandringham Road to continue to be open for all major events, and you would be able to move over 60% of our patrons. The venue clears in 14 minutes, so the barrier is not within the venue, it's external to the venue. One of the great elements of Eden Park is that you have 360-degree exiting of the venue. One of my favourite comments is that the Coliseum was built in a residential area. Stadiums bring communities together. So our ability to disperse people up to Dominion Road, Mount Eden, Morningside, Kingsland, even down as far as St Luke Shopping Mall. So our priority needs to be how we disperse those people, but also without imposing the witches' hats and roan cones and infrastructure that I look at Federal Street, and that is a shared road, day in, day out. Yet for us, we close down roads for 60% of our patrons arrive at Eden Park within the last 30 minutes. But we have road closures for 3 and 4 hours that makes no sense. All it does, on the weekend, the traffic management bill was the equivalent of Eden Park's rental for the Blues fixture. So this is some of the areas that cause pain points to our residents, but also commercially doesn't stack up for us.
And it can be fixed.
It can be.
Thank you. Councillor Ferry.
Oh, kia ora. My questions are around the new regulations require a new operating management plan, and there is an expectation around a community consultation piece to inform that. So do you have any information yet on how that's going to happen, what that's going to look like?
We currently have a plan in place. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that plan, but as part of the CLG, that plan is readily available. What I would say, and again, I've raised this with council previously, through the generic consenting that we've operated under previously, Eden Park as a national stadium has a threat level that shouldn't be underestimated. So previously the council required us to provide, as part of our planning and consenting, security numbers, policing numbers, etc., etc. And I raised this at the highest level within New Zealand government around the fact that it's not unusual when a threat is researched where people come to a venue. If you look at the Manchester bombing at the stadium, the individual had gone and seen the venue, seen the flaws in the security planning, etc. In our instance, all they have to do is Google it. What to me sounds insane. I don't see any value in public knowing, or councillors or local boards knowing how many security numbers, how many police are on site, etc. What I would say is we are world's best practice in terms of our event delivery, and we're happy to share those plans in a confidential environment, but I do struggle to give too much detail because of the risk to our patrons, and we have over 1 million patrons coming to our venue each year, and 3,000 workers on event day. We have in recent times, and an example of where an event has grown beyond Eden Park's barriers is Eid. So we've proudly held Eid for the last probably 7 years. We went to them this year on community feedback and said, we significantly fund the event. However, we can't fund traffic management, and we applied to the local board and council to get funding for that. Unfortunately, that wasn't forthcoming due to budgetary constraints, so that event's gone to Mount Smart. Now, from a planning perspective, going from 5,000 people to 25,000 people who are unfamiliar with your venue, etc., there's a diligence that is far greater than a cookie cutter approach to a blues fixture or even an All Blacks fixture. So we've got extensive planning and expertise in our operations team that every event is not a one-size-fits-all. Every event is planned in accordance with the demographic attending, and Councillor Fletcher's is a great point, where the average attendance was probably 70 for the Edinburgh Military Tattoo, so the planning associated with that event differed dramatically to the planning for a blues fixture that was family-friendly on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, so appreciate that, and I think that's some useful background information. My question was specifically around the community consultation and communication plan and how the park is going to work on that. You know, what kind of processes you see yourself using to create that plan with the neighbourhood and the broader stakeholders for the park.
So we have a weekly newsletter that goes out to the hood, our Neighbourhood Supporters Club, over 1,500 members. By way of the example, we met with one of the 6 departments within council about arborist work last week, and we then sent out in the hood newsletter last week, if you have an issue with tree pruning on your berm, please contact the council via their portal. So I think the public good arising out of Eden Park is far more than delivering events. So there'll be consultation through our hood, there'll be consultation through the CLG, but also people are able to contact us on a daily basis through our reception, and we get that. We get a number of people coming through in relation to whether it be parking or other associated issues. So the plan is fluid currently, but the CLG is really the format and the forum for people to go through, and as you're aware, we have representation from both our legal team and operations team at that forum.
Yep. And so I attend the community liaison group most months. It's not necessarily every month, but most of the time. And I do find that useful. One of the things that I updated them on last week was the comprehensive parking management plan work that Auckland Transport are bringing. So to the points that were raised before around the need for parking management outside of events. So AT are actually going to be doing that process, and there's a conversation, I was talking to AT about it yesterday, about the need to join up that conversation, because the risk is that we get lots of community feedback that's focused on events parking management, when actually this is a conversation about the non-events parking management, and we also need those two processes to work together. So have AT started to raise that with you yet? I did raise it at the CLG last week, but acknowledging that was only a week ago.
So our operations team has been engaged at this point, but I would like this to be led at CEO level. And part of the rationale is that from a sustainability perspective, when we look at some of the initiatives, whether it be at the park or through council, we're seeing single point infrastructure being installed in the area, where we think that electronic signage can be used for multiple purposes rather than just notifying people of bikes, as an example. So we have a temporary overlay of LED infrastructure that has a carbon footprint for every event. We have plastic signs that are installed over every sign across the streets for every event. Now, if we are serious about sustainability, these initiatives can be considered as part of the overall plan. So I would welcome the opportunity to be involved in that from a leadership perspective of the park.
Great. I think there are potentially some cost discussions to have there, but appreciate the leadership in that space. Finally, one of the things that's come up, and obviously we were having a conversation there about the footbridge, and the footbridge, may or may not happen. When it does, it'll make a change. But in the meantime, one of the things that I'm anticipating may happen, and that I've heard from people who live closer to Mongafo Station, is that when that reopens, there may be a lot of people walking through from that direction. And I think one of the things we learnt from the tattoo is that Kingston's not necessarily that well set up as a station for people with mobility issues, because the lift is small, goes up and down, takes ages, right? And so it may be that the new station at Mongafo, people with mobility issues may be more likely to use that and come across. So is that something that the park is looking at in terms of your thinking as that station comes on stream?
Yes, and also Morningside. and how we can engage with all the public transport services around the park. And the example of Councillor Fitcher mentioned around Suncorp Stadium in terms of infrastructure, they've got a drop-off and pick-up zone 15 minutes around the perimeter of the venue, no parking. And so there's a limited need for then traffic management. From our side, we want to encourage mobility patrons to have options. So some of those options is our mobility parking in Cricket Avenue, some is a pass that drop off and pick up, and then some is the public transport option. At the moment, I think the inconsistency of service has meant that most have used their vehicle, but the increase in mobility patrons since the initiatives with Permobil, with our comfort zones, is material.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you for those answers. Deputy Mayor Simpson.
Thanks, Chair. Well done, Nick. I think you do an exemplary job promoting Eden Park and the work that you do. I'm particularly pleased to see Guns N' Roses coming later in the year. Yeah. Yes. I'm going to, a little bit of a facetious comment first though. You asked if anyone knew where a temporary footbridge was coming from. I believe Ed Sheeran has one. You might like to have a chat to him and see if you'd like to donate his temporary footbridge to the City of Auckland. For those of you who weren't at Ed Sheeran, he had a bridge that went right over the crowd to a second stage. So he did have a temporary footbridge. I also want to just acknowledge you at the Edinburgh Tattoo. I wasn't there the night that you were acknowledged as a community champion, but I believe that happened and it was very well received, so congratulations on that. Nick, one of the things you haven't talked about is the benefit to Auckland when artists come to Eden Park and donate to charities. Can you talk a little bit more about that, the advantage to our city as a result of, you know, you getting some pretty big names? I know Metallica was one of them that gave to 2 charities, but what contribution does Eden Park, through its major events, especially in the live performing arts sector, actually make to our charitable groups?
Thank you for your acknowledgements, and yeah, it was a proud moment. I was only aware of it 15 minutes prior to it occurring, and I was lucky enough to have my niece and mother at the venue at the time, so it was an event that I'd secured for Melbourne, but then when the event was implemented, I'd left Melbourne, so I didn't get to see it. And then when I was in Auckland, obviously to see it on 3 occasions was a proud moment for our family. With regard to those charitable endeavours, all our major events, we get a local street artist to produce a mural. From Hannah Wilkinson with the FIFA Women's World Cup and celebrating the 3 Women's World Cups over a 2-year period, through to Matt Griffin and his post that saw over 15 million views by Travis Scott when he put it on his social channels. But then 40 limited edition prints are then produced and then given to a variety of charities that are then auctioned off. Last year that raised over $500,000. So it's an initiative that we've done in collaboration with artists. We also give each artist a version of that print. So Metallica received and signed versions for us. They also participate in a program that I'm sure you'd be passionate about, is Pianos in the Park. Pianos in the Park is an initiative with piano traders whereby pianos are donated to the venue. Public can come and play those on both event and non-event days, and then they get branded or painted by local artists and then positioned throughout the venue. So there's one in reception signed by Chris Martin and painted with vegan paint. There's a Metallica version, there's a 660 version, there's a pink version, etc. So all of these initiatives are to demonstrate that Eden Park in New Zealand is different to other markets. And we're now seeing a number of those markets now replicating what we're doing. The piece of artwork that was derived for the management of the Edinburgh Tattoo was a local architect who was trained locally. He then worked at Jazzmax. He's now resigned, and he does dot planning using tartan of New Zealand. And we had the Eden Park tartan produced and accredited out of Scotland, and those were then produced as pieces of artwork that then celebrated our culture and community and then were gifted to various representatives, including the Secretary of State, Douglas Alexander from Scotland. So all of these is to be short, sharp, evoke emotion, and part of the storytelling associated with our national stadium.
So I just wanted to highlight some of the things that you weren't highlighting because I know that they're also important to Auckland. Look, my next question, you talked about the turf, but what collaboration, I mean, you're incredibly important to Auckland and incredibly important to our stadium network. What collaboration could be actioned immediately in a positive way between you and us? Is there anything that we're missing by way of what we could do together?
An example of our advisory service is that last year our turf manager was based at New York and MetLife Stadium and delivered the FIFA Club Championship field installation and maintenance across that tournament. This year, Blair Christensen, our GM of turf operations, will be in New York for 12 weeks, managing the field, delivery and implementation for the FIFA Men's World Cup, the biggest event in the world. So I look to Blair's skill set, and whether it be from Napier to Dubai, a number of the staff that have been trained at Eden Park now then move on in roles. So there's no question that the expertise and knowledge that we have could be assisting other, whether it be community or indeed elite fields in Auckland. And as I mentioned, Mount Smart was previously and still is 7,000 square metres a stitched field, that a decision was made some few years back. A hybrid-backed field is the way to go moving forward when you want to have multiple content over a minimal period of time. So as an example, you had Ed Sheeran at Mount Smart and a few days later you had either rugby or football. You don't have a growing window of 12 to 24 days to regrow ryegrass, so you need to have a hybrid multi-purpose field that can lay and play within 24 hours. That is what we've developed with HG Turf. It's available at our farm currently at Karaka, and we use that at as I say, in what is it now, Henry Stadium in Wellington and Mount Smart. So there's no question that we should have consistency across our venues with the fields, because in future we are talking about a venue of best fit strategy, a venues Auckland model where teams can play at multiple venues on the same field. So I am aware that Mount Smart is looking to do some turf replacement in the near future, and that would be something we'd be very keen to explore.
Excellent. My final question, Chair, thank you, is, and I don't want you to say anything that can't say, but how are you getting on with Eden Park 2.1 in terms of providing the best value for us all?
Well, as we all know, that there is an infrastructure deficit in New Zealand, so utilising existing infrastructure better is critical. And so we're still in discussions with central government about stage 1 funding. Yesterday in Brisbane there was an announcement with a public-private partnership around the arena, so Plenary and Live Nation have won the contract with the local government equivalent, the state government, to build that facility. Plenary was part of our panel around our council submission and 2.1 and the preferred venue for Auckland. So we know that there will be a combination of public and private funding to bring that vision to life. At this stage, our priority has been the exit of both Auckland Cricket and Auckland Rugby, and once that is finalised, then our priority will shift to 2.1 funding, stage 1 particularly. What I would say is it hasn't stopped our aspiration, and we're doing the Lower West Stand redevelopment ahead of the State of Origin, because we know that the demand is there and we need to continue to evolve. So utilising existing funds to do those redevelopments or partnering with some of our sponsors to make them possible.
Thank you. And Chair, I won't say anything in my comments, but I just want to say I think Eden Park do a fantastic job for our city and we should be very proud of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Watson.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Nick and Brett. Some pretty stunning visuals there with regards the Edinburgh military tattoo. Like a number of these events now, these concerts, and now State of Origin. You know, New Zealanders had to used to physically have to go to those countries. You know, people that wanted to watch the tattoo had to go over to Scotland, and which was quite an expensive ticket. So, yeah, well done to that. That's another kind of really impressive feat that just continues to unravel. I did want to ask you about some of your comments in terms of the increase in utilisation of Eden Park, and you gave the example, I think, of 4 events in 5 days coming up: rugby, cricket, concert, soccer, or variations thereof. If we compare ourselves to Marvel Stadium, which you did, and we take into account the the limitations on Auckland by just being a lesser version population-wise. We've obviously had this enabling now of up to 12 large concerts and 20 medium concerts without any resource consents. What's really the view of you and the board in respect of how that kind of sort of momentum and utilisation can transfer across, say, just to that space, just as an example? So, that's on the face of it, that's 32, and what would you realistically be looking to achieve, all being well?
Thank you for the question. The changes that were made were primarily around enabling business to do business and enabling us to have conversations. So as an example, I think we all probably work on a Sunday. People who work in a supermarket or a shopping centre work on a Sunday, yet Eden Park couldn't work on a Sunday. And we were in negotiations for an artist next year that Sunday is mandatory, or that artist won't come to New Zealand. So the flexibility that has been enabled by the government changes has been a priority. The example of the MMMA concert on the Sunday of that 5 events in 4 days is another example where that will see up to 8,000 family members come to a free concert at Eden Park. Previously, that would be classified as one of our 6 artists and 12 shows. So as a management team or a board, we would need to make a decision. Do we host a community event that will make limited return for the venue against banking the opportunity and looking at a major artist, global artist, and their constraints that we were operating under? So what this will enable us to do is have conversations with confidence with promoters around our availability, our scheduling over a month period, not suggesting that if demand is there that we would either need to apply for a consent. In relation to the state of origin, we applied to council and got a consent without securing that event, because the NRL wouldn't have been confident in being able to bring that event to Auckland if we didn't have that consent. So we went through a timely and costly process that now will not need to be done. So I can't guarantee you're going to have 32 concerts in the first year since we've secured it. What I would say is even overnight conversations around the costs of coming to New Zealand with fuel prices, freight costs, etc., is problematic. So the sooner we can get a solution in that regard will help us get surety around our event concerts, event content. So, and we are focused on getting announcements in the pipeline over the next 2 weeks because we don't want promoters to start thinking actually it might get too hard.
So the key takeaway with all that, and particularly in the example of this 5 events, not 4, 5 and 4 days, is it? Yep, 5 and 4, right. Not 4 and 5. Okay, yeah. It clearly shows logistically there is no real constraint. I mean, if you can do it at that, and I know some people are worried like it might see a decline in the sport, which is the essence of Eden Park, the rugby and cricket and occasionally football and rugby league at times. That sort of utilisation then really means Eden Park can cater for everything, and its intention is to do that across smaller events, bigger events. There is no real restriction other than what you choose to be able to secure. Is that a reasonable assumption?
Technology, the advancements made, so even in retractable stands, in 2000 when we implemented Colonial Stadium, it took 24 hours to retract stands. Now the technology in the South Stand takes 3 hours. New technology enables retractable stands in 13 minutes. So the need for us to be able to seek investment for the North Stand redevelopment from central government is critical to make us hybrid multi-purpose. For those who attended the rugby on Sunday, as soon as the game completed, our team were washing off logos and moving the drop-in wicket, taking the goals down to be ready for this Friday for the double header. So the flexibility and technology to develop a wicket in a nursery and then drop it in within 5 days is something that now is custom and practice, not in all stadiums. In Australia, you've got oval venues that are hybrid for AFL and cricket, but not to the extent of hybrid that we're looking at with our content.
Final question, Mr. Chair, and it goes to the notion of the ability to host boutique sports and smaller events with that removable, retractable stands and configurations. It opens up a whole new world for Eden Park from the, the kind of expectation of a 20 to 40,000 crowd for any kind of code or concert. It means you're then going to be capture the market in much smaller events because of that new infrastructure that we're anticipating coming, and that this council has, of course, supported.
I've said previously we need to get more people to live sport. In Melbourne last week, 500,000 people went to 4 days of the Grand Prix, so 500,000 attendance over 4 days. Same time, there's close enough to 300,000 going to AFL football. For us, we had a busy weekend, but we're talking probably 100,000 across the events in Auckland. With a population of 1.8 million people, I still think we need to get more people going to live sport, the experience and the motivation and the aspiration. So the encouraging sign is people like Carl Budge at the Blues who are saying, we want to increase our attendance to average to 25,000 for fixtures. We need to create a fan experience that on an event day, whether the venue is half full or full, is still memorable for those in attendance. And so creating fan zones, creating family zones, creating swimming pool areas is all about creating experiences that are memorable but also catering for different demographics, small or large.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Nick and Brett, for the very impressive report. And I would endorse the comments of my colleagues here, particularly the Deputy Mayor, that this is very impressive work indeed. A couple of questions. Can you confirm, and I take it from your comments, that you intend keeping the outer oval Eden Park number 2 ground as part of the key part of the operation?
So we've got a number of proposals for the outer oval. We believe that there is a need, and I'll give you the example again of Marvel Stadium in Melbourne. I worked there for 13 years. We had close enough to 100 events a year, and the number one revenue was car parking at 25 million a year. So a park and ride facility is an option for us, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we wouldn't have a rectangular greenfield above that could be either hybrid or synthetic that would enable utilisation by community, utilisation by schools, and for smaller sporting events. So there is a number of plans possible for the outer oval. We know that green space, as the intensification occurs in Kingsland, Mount Eden, etc., green space will be critical, but we haven't got any plans other than to say the field is no longer fit for purpose for cricket, with people who are hitting the technology in bats, the heights, the strength of players, etc. We can't risk balls going onto Sandringham Road or into apartment buildings, etc. So it's been acknowledged that Auckland Cricket will transition at some point to Colin Park, and then that gives an opportunity to look at what the utilisation of the outer oval will be. But it won't be one purpose, it'll be multiple purposes.
Thank you. In terms of looking ahead, and obviously you're a visionary person, looking ahead, does the idea of technology-driven versatility, flexibility, does that reach as far as athletics?
So we have done some plans around, if we remove the West Stand, you could definitely, for those of you who know, I wasn't here, but Eden Park did hold the Empire Games, and there was an athletics track at Eden Park. So we have done some work around athletics at Eden Park. As far as AI, we would see AI being critical to the event delivery, and we saw on the weekend 75% of our venue utilising AI technology to deliver the Internet of Things and lighting or signage, etc. So yeah, we've also got to remember the live experience is why people come to the venue. So you don't want to dominate an experience by technology that makes it sterile.
Thank you. In terms of the traffic management issues. And can I congratulate you also on the way you've built relations with the local community? That seems to have been very successful.
Thank you.
But in terms of traffic management and road closures, clearly the disruption of that would take the top off some of the economic benefits that accrue from these events. Are you saying that the period of closure is unnecessarily long and could feasibly, without any compromise of health and safety, be reduced?
It's a case-by-case scenario, and I'll go back just by answering the question that when we had our original consenting conditions, there were certain times on a Friday that we could start a game because people used to go to the office on a Friday, and so the public transport wasn't going to be able to cope with a sell-out Eden Park crowd and people attending work and using the public transport network. A lot has changed over the last even 3 years in terms of working from home, working in the office, etc. So when it comes to traffic management, and I've made this comment on a number of occasions, prior to my time, rugby used to attract 40,000 people on a Saturday afternoon. People would go to the pub at 9 o'clock and then go back after the game. Now, the dwell time for a rugby game is lucky to be 2 or 3 hours. So we get people into the venue, over 50% in the last 30 minutes, and they leave within 14 minutes. So the actual impost to the residential area and the impact on the roads is quite minimal. But there's been stringent rules in place that apply to Eden Park that causes some of these pain points to our residents. So we're working with Auckland Transport. I think the changes with the structure and bringing back into council will assist us because we'll have a direct voice and direct changes around that space. We will never compromise the safety of our patrons, and there will be events that require road closures from a safety or security perspective, World Cup events, etc. But it'll be done on a risk basis rather than on a consenting basis.
Can I say that you're proposing a solution? One solution would be walking bridge, over bridge, which certainly makes sense, but working more closely with AT roads people would also be helpful, and given that part of AT will be migrating back into the council, it may actually be easier to do that in the months ahead.
For those who attended Sunday's fixture, they would have seen an array of, I call them witches' hats, traffic cones on Sandringham Road. That's Australian terminology. I've got to get it out of my terminology. But I could not see any value whatsoever that they were creating other than increasing the profits of a traffic management company. So, but we wouldn't have got our traffic management plan approved on the weekend by Auckland Transport unless they were out.
Just one more point. Good on you for the way you benchmark internationally, especially with the great city of Melbourne. I think it's very helpful. If in regard to, we're talking about AT, in regard to that, if only our public transport people would be like you and go and benchmark with the Aussies. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bartley.
Thank you. It's good to read your report and see you make a profit, like 4 million, and then you add on that bit about depreciation, and then we see the deficit. That must really suck, because it's very clear you do an amazing job in bringing so many different kind of events to the city and at Eden Park. So I wanted to ask about is council being a competitor to you guys in terms of major events, when major events is the link for you guys for better financial performance?
Yeah, we are at times competitors, and the British Lions, the Women's British Lions series is a good example. Now, for me, we implemented the Women's Rugby World Cup. For those of you who attended the final, it's probably one of the most memorable events that I've attended at the park. So when the government put in 3.5 million to that event to secure it for New Zealand, I think there should have been criteria that the game should have been played at our largest stadiums in our biggest cities at the best venues. When I started at Eden Park, women's sport was classed curtain raisers. There was, under the previous government, a women in sport strategy. We actively went out and secured 3 Women's World Cups in that period of time, and we sold out 7 of 9 FIFA Women's World Cup fixtures at our national stadium. Now, no one would have ever believed that, no different to the final of the Rugby World Cup and the outcome for the Black Ferns. So there are times when we shouldn't be competing. There are times when a venue's best fit strategy should be implemented, and I think we all agree that that is going to be the best outcome for Auckland. It's just how we get there and how quickly that can occur.
Thank you. And then I also had a look at some of the costs, because your annual report is talking about the pipeline for 2026 not looking as strong. So wanted to know, like, you know, how you're looking to address that. But I'm also hearing that you're trying to get more events here. And then also looking at the costs that you incurred last time around Auckland cricket over concert hosting. And the other cost you mentioned here was the government, going for those government infrastructure priorities programs, whatever. Do you anticipate any other kind of major costs like that this year?
We're almost a fixed cost business. The reality is that whether it be power, water, gas, there aren't too many variable costs. Our staffing is lean in terms of the delivery. We use very few external consultants or contractors. There has been some projects over the last 2 to 3 years where we have to outsource, whether it be in relation to the government's fast track consenting opportunities, the council REOI process, etc. But it was an investment in the future because it actually highlighted the vision of what is possible at our national stadium, and it links into a broader infrastructure conversation for Auckland and what role Eden Park can play across the city in, again, that whole arriving as a ticket holder, leaving as a tourist. So we don't have too many examples where we're thinking that we're going to have unbudgeted expenditure. The areas that we are prioritising are areas like fire control panels or infrastructure that the reality is was implemented in 2011 for the Rugby World Cup and they're becoming end of life. There are some of our asset management planning. If you look at the top of the south stand, those chairs probably have been used on maybe 100 occasions since the installation. So the life cycle of those versus the east or the west stand that are in full sunlight differs. So we get into the micro when it comes to our asset management planning, but the focus is around safety. There's significant glassworks as an example that we're looking at the moment because they're delaminating as a result of just age. So those are all prioritised, and then Brett works with our finance team and myself to put business cases forward on those occasions.
Thank you. Councillor Foley.
Kia ora, thank you, Chair, and thanks, Nick, for that really, really good update as well. And there have been lots and lots of questions today, many that I was going to ask but have already been asked. And I do want to just commend you as well as others have about the diversity of events that you've been holding over the time that you've been there at Eden Park. I particularly like the military tattoo. I had the good fortune of attending that over a decade ago when it was in South Korea. So I knew that it was going to be an amazing show, but I think it was uniquely different for us in Auckland, and I really appreciated the strong presence of it, that real New Zealand and Pasifika flavour as well, having our tangata whenua there as well as our Tongan group there as well. So thank you for that. I have questions about the state of origin. Everyone is abuzz about it. So people have been talking to me about it, everywhere I go in South Auckland. And just questions about the fan experience. You've mentioned a little bit about some of the plans you've got. Are you able to elaborate a little bit on that, on what that might look like? Are we looking at a couple of days before or a week before the event where you might have meet the team type days that we could, have our schools or local kids rugby league clubs, and I'm thinking of the Ngāti Otara Scorpions, for example, come and meet the fans. Obviously, you'd have to have a separate day for New South Wales and a separate day for Queensland because of the issues there. But if you could talk a bit more about that fan experience, and also if you're able to make the experience uniquely, a little bit more of a New Zealand flavoured experience, because, this is the first event in New Zealand. So it'd be really good to see that have that real Kiwi flavour to it, Māori and Pasifika flavour as well. Kia ora.
It is early in terms of the overall event delivery, pre and post. We have had conversations with the likes of Universal Music about how we can use local artists to celebrate New Zealand culture and community ahead of the event, during the event, etc. Again, I reiterate that we want the entire city, we want the entire country to embrace this event. We want to show the world what we can do in terms of major events, and that should include activities that complement the state of origin and highlight to everyone who's coming to New Zealand what a great city Auckland is, and there is a lot to see and do. We want to maximise the spending. The exchange rate is very favourable to Australians currently in coming to New Zealand. So what are those 10 activities that we want to see people do and experience and invest locally? So, I think there's probably a bit like a World Cup where a separate committee has been set up. Perhaps our councillor involved with Auckland Unlimited might like to be involved in that committee to say, how do we leverage that event to ensure that we maximise it, but also the NRL considers coming back, and they've got a history of delivering State of Origins in Melbourne and also in Perth outside of New South Wales and Queensland. Well, we want to be in the cycle where it becomes not a one-off but a regular occurrence coming to New Zealand.
Kia ora, thanks, and I agree with you there, especially because when you think of some of the best players in the game are Māori and Pasifika. Right. So there's a unique opportunity there to cement in the minds of the NRL that this is a fixture to come back to again and again. Kia ora, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. There's two more questions, councillors. Councillor Patterson-Hamlin, followed by Councillor Short.
Kia ora. Everyone else, all the questions I was going to ask, and now I have a totally different question to ask based on some of your answers. You mentioned resonance. So this is an area that I'm interested in but have no knowledge of. So I just wondered if you could elaborate on that. Is what you're saying that every time loud music plays that has an impact on the stadium? Am I understanding that correctly?
Sorry, what do you mean by loud music playing has an impact on the venue?
Does when you're talking about resonance, does that mean that loud music impacts the sort of integrity of the structure, or have I got that completely wrong? No, it's wrong. In terms of I had one complaint at Billy Joel, and that was a resident saying it wasn't loud enough because we've got an acoustic barrier. And sorry, so I think you might have misheard me. Resonance rather than residence. Okay.
I don't believe there's any issue with residents with respect to the structural integrity of the stadium.
Sorry. No. I thought you said residents.
No.
Engineering rather than neighbours.
Sorry.
No. But we do have the University of Auckland do noise monitoring and then do a seismic reading from the events.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Short.
Thank you. Great report. Enjoyed reading it. I did have to explain to my colleague here who Emma Mema is. He's obviously not a Wiggles fan because he would have known.
I'm not a Wiggles fan.
I know. I'm quite shocked you didn't know who Emma Mema was. is. But anyway, sorry. Anywho, my question is just pure curiosity. Are you able to give us any hints or hum a tune of the artists you're announcing tonight?
No, I can't.
Oh,
but
dang, Blabbit.
all I would
It's worth a
say
shot.
is, there was an artist we were working. Well, I'd say I've worked in the industry for 25 years, and I would have loved this artist to come to New Zealand. About 7 months ago, we thought we'd secured this artist. This is a different event, and I almost jinxed it because I said to someone, "Oh, we've secured this artist," and the day after, then the state of origin and the plan changes, I got a call saying the show's off. So until an act is announced, I very rarely tell anyone because you just never know what could happen.
Nice try. Okay, yeah. Very good. Okay, Nick, well, that's kind of the end of the questions that we have from around the table. I just want to thank you and Brent again for being here. Just before you leave the table, I'll just check, Sarah, is there anything else from your point of view that you need to cover?
Nothing from me, thanks, Chair.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the opportunity.
No, great to see you.
Thank you.
So there's a resolution. I've had a request from Councillor Fletcher to move the recommendation of thanks. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Foley, thank you very much. Okay. Any comments? Thank you, Councillor Turner.
A really good thing to sit here and listen through, you know, real good story. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. All right, very good. I'll put that on voices. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Any abstentions? Declare that carried. Thank you very much. All right, team, we're probably in the home straits here, so I won't break, but it shouldn't take much longer. We've just got a couple of items. Most of them are very kind of procedural. 8.3, Budget and Performance Committee Forward Work Programme. We just need to approve that. I'll move that. Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor, thank you. Thank you very much. So, yep, any questions? Thanks.
Just one brief question. It's probably just like a yes from Ross Meaded. I've sent my concerns last week and, well, talked to Auckland Transport, but also talked to Phil, but concerns to the Mayor's office and Phil around what we're doing, planning for all types of, I guess, pressures from the oil price shock. Yeah. How it affects our current annual plan, but also what may or may not need for decisions that have changed through our consultation, and just that is being addressed, sort of a red, orange, green situation.
Yes, we're looking at that across the group in a coordinated way, and we'll give you some advice as soon as we can.
And are there plans already in place to reduce or, look across the business to reduce our fossil fuel use, even at this point, just to save dollars, like choosing the EVs over the petrol cars, or how we rank them through that automated system?
I think people are looking at options and looking at all the contingencies. People aren't pulling triggers on any of those things just yet.
But should we be, if it's gone up 35% already, surely that's already outside budget. So anything we can do to reduce it before it goes crazy.
Yes, we'll put information together, and then we'll look at what are the choices and options around that. And also people are looking at scenario planning alongside central government around any possible scenarios around fuel shortages and rationing, all those things. So I think everyone's in the phase of getting prepared and getting the best information we can at this stage.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, sorry, just off the back of that, thanks for raising that, colleague to my left. And I'm just, as a suggestion, wondering if we should be booking some workshop time pretty quickly to go through that stuff, because it is fairly urgent. I know you've got to get all the information together before we can actually assess it, but we should get that in people's diaries, I'd suggest. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Yep, thank you.
I just want to jump on to what Councillor Hills and Henderson were raising. Will we all get that information about, how we're preparing for the fuel crisis? And also, if more people are going to be on public transport, are we doing more to look at special vehicle lanes?
We'll make sure all councillors get updates as soon as we can.
Right. Very good, thank you. On that, I'll moved and seconded, isn't it? Yeah, okay, I'll put that on the voices. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Abstentions? Declare that carried. Thank you. And the final, the second to last item, status update on action decisions. Information report only, no discussion. Can we put that resolution up? Do you want to move it? Yep, moved by Councillor Hill, seconded by Councillor Short. No discussion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Abstentions? Declare that carried. Final item, summary of information memorandum circulated to the Budget and Performance Committee. No discussion. Is that the resolution up there? Thank you. It's just to receive the information in your pack. So can I have a mover? Yeah, David, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Foley. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Abstentions? Declare that carried. All right, team, well done. That brings us to the conclusion of the committee meeting. Just again, thank you to the support staff. Thank you for the preparation of the reports through the Finance Committee. Thank you for all your attendance, including those online. And thank you, Duncan, up the front here for your support. Declare the meeting closed. Thank you.